We're going to take a look at some of the other expenses that are involved in owning a home. And I know in part 1 of section 8.3 you looked at some vocabulary, you looked at some things like closing costs and insurance, mortgage insurance, property insurance, and those kinds of things. So as far as closing costs are concerned, we get a little bit more specific here. These refer to the one-time costs associated with purchasing a house. And it doesn't matter if it's a resale house or even purchasing a new house. And for the most part, you can count on between 2 and 3% of the value of the house. So for instance, if you were to buy a house for $160,000, you could expect anywhere between about $3,000 and $5,000 in closing costs. This amount is in addition to your down payment, which is typically between 5 and 10%. So you definitely need a substantial sum of money in the bank before you can consider purchasing a house. Some of the specifics: you've got a home inspection fee. You should always, especially with an older home, have a professional inspect the house. They can look at the structural integrity of the house. They can look at the foundation to make sure there are no leaks. They can make sure it's insulated properly, make sure that the heating and cooling systems are functioning properly, the electricity is done properly into code, the roof, and things like that. That'll cost about $300. If your down payment is less than 20% of the purchase price, then you need to pay mortgage insurance, and you have to apply for that. Legal fees: you definitely need a lawyer to do all of the paperwork for the mortgage and transferring the deed and so on, and that can be between $1,000 and $1,500. The bank will want an appraisal done on the house before giving you a mortgage, and of course the government gets its piece of the sale called land transfer tax. So that's the largest of the closing costs. Once you've purchased your house, and these are the expenses that we're going to be including in our budget, you have ongoing expenses. So typically your largest ongoing expense is your mortgage payment. So when you're renting, 100% of that rent went towards the landlord. Your mortgage payment, as you know, it gets a portion of it goes towards interest, a large portion initially, and the rest of it goes towards paying off that mortgage. We talked before about mortgage insurance, and depending on the type of house you have and your financial situation and how much of a down payment you put on, anywhere between about 2/3 of 1% to 3%. Again, that could be on a $150,000 house, another $1,500 per year or perhaps more. Property taxes: when you rent a property, the property taxes are included as part of your rent. When you own a property, you'll be getting a separate bill from the city, and it's broken up into 3 components. You've got the municipality, the city in which you live, the region, so in our case we live in the region of Niagara, and you've got your education. In Niagara Falls, if you add together those 3 components, it works out to just over 1.5%. So on a $200,000 home, your annual taxes would be just over $3,000. Typically, you pay these taxes at the same time as you pay your mortgage, and the bank will take the taxes away and forward those on to the city for you. You also need house insurance. So this is insurance against damage or theft to your house, and you can count on approximately $500 per year. And then of course you have utilities, and often when you rent, things like heat and water and electricity are included in your rent. Those will all be metered in your house. And just to give you a ballpark, if you just have kind of an average size home with 2 people, you might spend $100 for natural gas, certainly more in the winter but less in the summer. So these are averages, about $50 per month for water and $100 for electricity. Keep in mind that if you have more than 2 people, or you have a larger house, or it's not a well insulated house, or you have something that's using a lot of power, those amounts can fluctuate. And then you've got your other utilities such as internet, television, phone. So you're going to enter in all of these values into the spreadsheet that we started before. And of course you're going to need to use a online mortgage calculator or the TVM solver to determine what those mortgage payments are. For the type of expenses that we estimated annually, for instance your annual property taxes of $3,000, you're going to divide those by 12 to estimate your monthly amount. And the same thing is true with house insurance.